I'll start with a brief explanation of my paper prototype and my final proposal. I wanted to test a few key features in the paper prototype that I also mentioned in the final proposal. These include the lasers and how it would interact with the player, and also how the players would interact to the laser rotating and getting a second laser. Well, both of these seem to be fine, even though I couldn't really say too much about these because it's quite hard to control and rotate the laser on paper. But I knew it was something that I wanted to continue with and iterate on further. I also wanted to see if the map that I drew out would be a good map. This didn't seem to be the case, and it was too easy for the player to run around it and didn't add much value to it. And the pickups also seem to be a fun idea to add to the game, and you can see them on the screen. It's a little heart icon with a plus sign in it. In my final proposal I had a bit of a different version, and will have at the end of this video some features I didn't add, like the mirrors, because it wouldn't add much value to the core gameplay, because it's more about the player having to be cautious around lasers and less about creating mirrors that would confuse the player. I could add these later on later levels, but for the core gameplay it wouldn't be necessary to have these, and it would just be... So this is the first iteration of my game. There are lasers that rotate every 5 to 15 seconds, and these doors also rotate every 5 to 15 seconds. The player has to get to the end to get to the flush. It's like some sort of pickup that you have to pick up to get... That's like the finish basically. And that's basically it. You also have checkpoints that make sure if you die you respawn there, and if you lose all your lives, like in the UI in the top left, you get respawned all the way back at the beginning of the game. Each time a laser rotates it will make a really weird sound, and that's so the player can notice it if something is rotating, but this is quite annoying. So this is my second iteration of my game. Something they changed here, like the biggest change happened in this iteration. It's the map. It rotates around clockwise and the outer part counterclockwise. I also changed the doors. The doors now don't rotate like the every 5 to 15 seconds, but the player has a button that you can press to rotate them. There are still some bugs that will get fixed later on. Also something else, there are multiple flushes now, so the player explores more of the level, and lasers now become more reddish if they are going to rotate, like you can see in the video. If they're red, they will rotate. This is my third iteration. Things that I changed in this iteration are the buttons. They are green like you can see in the video if the door is open, and red if the door is closed. I also fixed the glitch with the door that could open or close, a bit glitchy. Also, something else that you will notice is the top-down view, because otherwise the player would get a bit confused about if the thing is rotating. The view would change completely and it would be really weird, but now it is completely fixed. And there's also a shield pickup like you saw in the video that can make sure the laser doesn't hit you. There's only one problem with it, and it doesn't have a countdown or something that the player can visually see when it will end. And the UI has also been made better, so there's like this count of total flushes that the player can see how many flushes he still has left. If he picks one up, the UI will decrement with 1. This is my final iteration of my game. Some things I added here are a start screen, a tutorial level to give a bit of an introduction to the mechanics of the game, and also an end screen, so if you collect all flushes it will give the end screen. I also give the laser a visual effect so the player can more obviously see what the laser is, because I got feedback that it wasn't obvious. Something else I added are the particle effect of the fire that comes out of the laser when the second one is about to come out. I also added a health pickup that if the player picks it up, the player will get 1 extra life. I made the camera a bit higher because I got feedback also that you couldn't see enough, so I made it a bit higher. I added invisible walls to the game so the lasers can't hit the middle of the map anymore, because otherwise the player would repeatedly die and respawn in an instant and have to restart the game totally over.